Here tonight, so far, with Jeff Singer from Kill to This and numerous other projects that we'll be discussing. We may, be joined by other members of Kill to This later, depending. We'll see. We're just going to play that one by ear. But Jeff, how are you, bro? You okay?
I'm good. I'm just going to do a cracking joke now. You ready?
Go for it, mate.
Cup of tea. No, it's not.
Excellent. That's how you're surviving the lockdown then, yeah? It's all good, yeah?
Well, I'm not real. I'm not a very good drinker, to be honest. Yeah, just get tired,
No stamina, mate. Well, you can work on that. You've got the time to work on the drinking stamina, mate, definitely.
All seriousness, growing up in Manchester, so I joined a band when I was 15 called Marquesa. And they were a massive influence on me because I'd auditioned for a band called Blood Money they had a deal which was huge. In 1985, I was 14 and I heard about this audition and I went to Hardwick to this big rehearsal room. When I was a kid, got dropped off by my mum, went in and played with this thrash band with a record deal and I didn't get it. I was obviously too young. And I think they did a couple of albums and they all talked about me. This kid turned up and the singer was Danny, who we ended up in China Beach with, who then reformed to Kill to This. It's a mad thing.
Let me just jump in there. Right. Now, I have no idea. Here's a coincidence story. I had no idea that you lot were China Beach. Right, get this. Yeah. When I was getting into rock and metal, and I can't remember how old I was, probably about 12, 13, and I was listening to the rock show. Now, I can't remember if it was Mary Ann Hobbs or if it was even as far back as Tommy Vance, because it was like early 90s. Is that right?
China Beach? Right,
yeah. I think it was Tommy Vance, if I remember rightly, because I actually, me being an analog man as well, sometimes recorded the show off the radio and listened back to it. They had good stuff on, because back then, kids,
tape it.
There was no Sky TV. Well, there was Sky TV, but it was like a thing in the early 90s or the 80s. There was certainly no internet, nothing like that. And you were pretty starved if you were into your rock and your metal. There were programs like Raw Power, which became Noisy Mothers, which I loved and grew up on. But that was like a 2-hour program once a week. That's pretty much it. And then you had Friday night, you had Tommy Vance on the rock show, and later it was Mary Ann Hobbs. And that was about it for rock and metal music. You were kind of stuffed. So anyway, I had this, I can still remember, I had on that, they played Damage Inc. by Metallica, awesome. Played Skin of My Teeth by Megadeth, amazing. Little Rich Boy by Asia, which as I get older, I find that I'm getting more into Asia and Marillion in a non-ironic sense.
As we talk, just come back to Asia, because that's the funny thing, John. I'm dead lucky. That's the one thing I'll say. I'm not a millionaire, all that sort of stuff, but I'm so lucky that my vision from being at the Blood Money audition in 1985, in 1986, I saw an advert in the paper for a band in Manchester called Marquesa, and I went to audition and I learnt my lesson. I turned up, they had the rehearsal room under the arches near the Salisbury.
Know it well.
And I turned up, they used to have a lock-up there. And I'm still friends with them all. Fortunately, the singer Grant just died, which is really sad. He was a lovely, gentle giant. But I turned up and he said, "How old are you?" And I went 18. And I was 15. I got the job. And that set me on a path. But I always knew that I would do what I would do. And yeah, I don't do it full time anymore. But what I have done over 20 years as a career, I mean, it's now 30 odd years, but I was lucky I did it for 20 years as a full career. It's taking me around the world, and I've done things and met people and done stuff, which I suppose you may say also what you do.
Sounds incredibly like reminiscent of my own life in a different field. Yeah. But do go on, and where does Asia come into this, bro?
So there's always an anecdote. So Crow Jane Blue, 1992, and we were just talking about it before we went on air, and we were going and doing the Marquee, went to Germany, and we got a deal with Hugh Kettner amps or something. Right. We had to go to London and pick them up, and we turned up, and they were in this like big rehearsal room place, and this door's open for this rehearsal room, and I look in, and it's Asia in there, wow. And this bloke, the guitar player, he goes, "All right, Jeff," and it was Vinnie Burns, who'd been in Dare, who went on to join Ultravox in Asia, and it's just funny, you just meet people. I've been in the Hard Rock Cafe in Minneapolis having dinner, and a guy called Sean McCarthy, who was a drum tech, used to drum tech for him. They're in town the night before or something, or they think they're doing a show, whatever. But he just walks in. He's from Bradford. All right, lads, unbelievable things, and that's the beauty, is that you do, whether it's 1985 and I'll come back to this in a minute, but 1985 and 1986, all the club days, you know. Let's just nearly kill the dog. Don't worry.
Nice.
We just look at things meshing to each other, you know. And I always, like, going back to Asia, me and Vinny, every time I speak to him online, I always say, when are we going to start the supergroup? And I think he's thinking, never. But what we did, when you talk about the old shows, or the old radio shows, what we did have was incredible press and a real kind of, I can remember from being, in fact, the other day, it was 37 years since I went to see Iron Maiden on the Peace of Mind tour, the Apollo. I'll have to turn that off, sorry.
Hey, Jeff, Mark is actually waiting to be admitted. Do you want to finish this point, or should we admit him now? We're going to be joined by another member of Kill to This. We are totally honoured. He has joined us. Hold on a second, bear with me. Hold on. Now we're going to do the bit like, can we hear each other? Ah, here we go. Mark?
Hey.
You all right, bro? Connecting to audio.
Hiya, gents.
Hiya, bro.
Right.
Okay. Are you doing this whilst driving, bro?
He probably is.
Okay, on questionable legality. I don't want to screw you up if this goes out, because this is going out, right?
Mark, I've not seen you. I've not seen you for 3 months. When did you join ZZ Top?
That's the lockdown there coming in, yeah.
Yeah, flipping heck. Yeah.
No haircut and a heroic beard.
Oh, mate, that's awesome. Well, Mark, by the way, for people that don't know, this is Mark Minor, guitarist to Kill to This. And we were just discussing, pal, with Jeff, just before you joined us, that I, until recently, had no idea that you lot actually used to be China Beach, right? Because I have a story, which I used to record the rock show with Tommy Vance off the radio on a Friday night. And there was one in particular, right, and you guys got played. You got some airplay on there as an unsigned band or a newly signed band or whatever. And I remembered it, and I had the tape, and I had and I remember the fact that I took interest because it said they were a Manchester band, so straight away my ears perked up. So, oh, cool, right? So I remember it. I can't remember the track, whatever it was. It's a long, long time ago now. But I did not know until I saw some of Jeff's pictures on Facebook about 2 months ago that it was you guys. That's just mental, you know.
Excellent. Yeah, no, good memories, China Beach. It was a really good album. We just very quickly were kind of in a style that was very sort of has-been and out of date. And I think both myself and Jeff wanted to do something that was a bit more contemporary and cutting edge at the time. Would you say that's right, Jeff?
Yeah, well, I wasn't on the album. The drummer on the album was a guy called Dennis Gasser from Zentrix, who is an awesome player, still is he's so good. There's no one who's got... He's got his own style. I'm a massive admirer of Dennis, and this is such a long story, but I'll make it short. I met Mark in the summer of '93, and when I met Mark, I was actually going to live in America, and I didn't know I was coming back, so I went to live in Los Angeles, and we'd met and talked about it, but it just wasn't the right time. And when I came back from LA, we met up, and I wasn't good enough for the band. I didn't play well, and we didn't hook up. But a few months later, he phoned me up again because I think Danny was saying you must give him another chance. And then that was it. I was in, and then from there, that's when we started to tour heavily. So if I'm right, Mark, you didn't do a lot of gigs before I joined, or not after the album was released. But then we toured so heavily, but when I met Mark, I knew. I mean, really, he's like a brother to me. And, you've got to remember, this is something like, what is it now? It was for nearly 30 years. We've been involved and meshed in bands and projects. He's like a brother. And I knew when I met him that it is as it is. We're very closely met.
Well, that's a great sort of vibe to have in a band. And that's that's a bit of a difference maker, I think, and it comes across when you're on stage and things as well. It's not something you can really, fake. You can go out there like hired guns and what have you. And I've seen plenty of sort of super groups and collaborations, but it doesn't quite come together, in the music or certainly live. And I think it adds to it. But talking about the way things are also like a mesh and things. So I was saying, we talked about previous projects and things, and then was it from China Beach that you became Kill to This? Was that the next sort of step, the next phase?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we felt that we toured very hard. We did tours with Annihilator. We did straight onto a band called Skyclad.
Yeah. Andy Sneap was in Skyclad. Is that correct?
No, he was the Sabat.
Sabat. My bad. Oh, Skyclad with the fiddles. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, the really original. Did well in Germany, and then we toured with a band from America called Power. Right. Which was great fun. But the singer of Power was a guy called Nick Arlea, and he had this incredible voice. And we just stayed friends. And then we went on, did a huge tour of Germany with Running Wild, who were massive out there, and we were doing like huge. What would you say about like the Manchester Arena, that kind of place? And we were getting great press. People loved us. And they were the best times, genuinely, the funniest, amazing, because it was like an upbringing, wasn't it, Mark? It was like we were learning all the time, blagging it, and then we realised that I think the music at the time, we felt that Danny, who's got this incredible voice. I mean, actually, we went Mark's 50th last year. We got back together, and Danny's voice really brings me to tears. He's amazing, but he kind of didn't want to do it anymore, and we felt we needed to go harder. So we asked Nick if he would get involved in a new project, and that was it. He did. So Nick was coming across from New Jersey to do the records and to tour.
Well, I saw you guys first in Kill to This. I saw you, it must be 15, 16 years ago now, supporting Megadeth. I think it was the Cryptic Writings album. I'm not sure, but at the Manchester Academy.
23 years ago.
23. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, you've depressed me slightly, but we'll continue. But I'm not blowing smoke, right? I was aware who you were, right? I wasn't aware until about a month ago that you used to be China Beach, but I am now. But at the time, I used to read Kerrang avidly and Metal Hammer and everything else like that. And I've had my own print-ups in those magazines, which we'll come back to in a moment, because there you go. But basically, I knew who you were, and I heard very good things. And I was jamming in a band that never came to fruition at the time, because I do play a bit of guitar. And actually, it was with one of your students at the time, Mark. Now, I can't remember the kid's surname, named Rick. He had long, sort of slightly curly dark hair. He was a really decent guitarist. And he was sort of raving about you lot as well. So I'd read you in the magazines. Then I'd met Rick, and we were jamming in a band in my mum's cellar at the time. And he said, "Oh, supporting Megadeth." And I'm like, "Well, I'm going there anyway." And then I thought, right, well, I've got to check you out. And I ended up in the pit throughout all your set, throughout all the Megadeth set. And I'm not blowing smoke. Seriously, that night and your performance stands out and I've seen hundreds upon hundreds of gigs. Your performance and Megadeth's performance, because I've seen Megadeth God knows how many times, and that night was probably the best I ever saw them play, and the two of you back to back just smashed it. So that particular gig is like burnt in my mind, and then from there,
I think we intimidated them, John. I think that was the problem. I think we might have intimidated them.
Lit a fire with them, mate. They went out there and kicked some ass, man, I tell you. But wow, any thoughts on that? Sorry, Mark.
Nick, incredible. Dave Ellefson, Mustaine. What a lineup. And, Marty Friedman's chops, I mean, outrageous, incredible.
We were very lucky. But you see, that happened. What Kill to This were doing that was really, the funny thing was, God, we need to do about 2 or 3 episodes of this. But
we will, seriously.
Basically, what happened was, we Kill to This signed a deal, and we were dropped on the first day of our tour. We toured with Annihilator again. There was Annihilator and Dearly Beheaded from Stockport.
I know Dearly Beheaded as well, yeah.
And we had 22 of us on a tour bus with Annihilator for, I think, 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever it was. It was bonkers, absolute bonkers. But the funny thing was, because Mark was incredibly driven, he used to make things happen. Just used to never take no for an answer. And we toured with no record deal. We did Annihilator. And then we went on in the new year and we toured with Gripping, Dave Lombardo's band.
Gripping, yeah.
Yeah. And then we toured with, and then we went on and we were offered, Mark, I'm sorry I'm talking because you're driving, but chip in, mate.
Oh,
he's not driving, of course. That'd be very irresponsible.
That's right. Green screen.
I bet he's got one of these. Yeah. And Mark said, I've got the UK dates. He said, I've got the UK dates for Megadeth, which I think was 4 or 5 shows. It finishes on it was Manchester, Glasgow. Glasgow was the first one. Manchester, Wolverhampton, somewhere else, London. And then the next night, so we played with Megadeth at the Astoria 1 on the Thursday night. And on the Friday night, we were playing with Testament at the Astoria 2, which was another story, Jeff's anecdotes, of me meeting Chuck Billy, Hero, yeah? And he was wearing a Man City shirt. And I've got a photo on my Facebook of that. And I was so disappointed. It was like that. Anyway, during that week with Megadeth, we heard that the support band for the European tour, which is 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, where they were going to Europe, where they were huge, had pulled out. And Mark just says, we'll do it. We didn't know how we'd do it. And anyway, it turns out, he says, well, we'll find out tonight. And on the Friday night when we played with Testament, we waited until about 11 o'clock. And then we said, right, you're in. So I phoned our friend Fred, who lived in Holland, who rented us a van. My uncle lent us the money for the van. On the way down to London, we got past our Gripping tour bus driver, who said he was going to London. He says, I'll wait for you. We told him what was going on. He says, I'll wait for you. He drove us to Holland. And then we went on tour, driving ourselves with Megadeth in arenas for 2 months. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
That's insane, man. That's an incredible story. Also, both of you, I've got to tell you, the names you're throwing out here, Testament, Annihilator, these are the bands I grew up on. Obviously, the big four. I mean, Megadeth, Metallica, Anthrax, Slayer. We were talking about Zentrix earlier. I think we were talking on film about that. It might have been before we started rolling. I can't remember. But Zentrix was a British band. They supported Megadeth, Slayer on the Clash and Testament on the Clash of the Titans show in 1990. Not to be confused, guys, with the Clash of the Titans martial arts show, which also had its first one on that same year, which I am also highly sort of involved with. And there are stories about that on other tapes. I'm just clarifying that was a heavy metal event. But, you know, all
John,
good. Yeah.
If we had a fight, how many seconds do you reckon I'd last?
I reckon it'd be durable, Jeff. I reckon you could go around, maybe a round.
The only way I'd go around is if I was running around the ring.
That's what I'm saying, though, mate. You'd have to stick and move, you know what I mean? I'm not saying I haven't employed that tactic myself on a few occasions, but, you know, it can be done, mate. We can work on this. But, guys, you know, aside from those bands, I know that after Megadeth and Kill to This, you then went on to tour with loads of massive names, including Slipknot, or you played with them. I don't know if you toured with them, but you played with them, didn't you? How did that come about?
Me and Mark had a bit of a powwow for a few years. And after Deviate was gone, I actually left the band. But Mark, then, they had... What did you do, Mark? You did 2 tours with Slipknot, Megadeth... No, sorry. Machine Head, Anthrax...
Oh.
Typo Negative. Typo Negative as well was a really great tour.
I love them. Saw them a few times. But I mean, you actually, I didn't realise you toured with Slipknot. I knew you'd played. How did that tour go? What was that like?
Yeah, they were incredible. I mean, they didn't, for obvious reasons, feel at all threatened by us. And so they let us have whatever we wanted with the stage, let us have loads of sound check, and they were just lovely, lovely blokes. They were really welcoming and really, really top guys. They were awesome. Unfortunately, compared to Anthrax were complete dicks with us.
Right.
So disappointing, but apparently it was when Scott Ian was going through a very, very difficult part of his life, and he'd been out on tour and found out that his wife was cheating on him, and So he was going through personally a very, very difficult time. But yeah, they weren't very nice to us. But yeah, honestly, Slipknot, lovely guys. I ended up on New Year's Eve going across to see them play the Super Toad in their hometown in Des Moines, and met their mums and met their grandmas, and so bizarre watching Slipknot, and they're going on stage setting fire to each other and pissing on each other, and all their mums and grandmas are stood at the side of the stage.
Oh, mate, well, a couple of things. First, I was at Slipknot. I think it was their first ever UK gig. It was certainly their first ever UK tour, again at the Academy in Manchester. I think it was about 1997. I was right down the front. I've got a bootleg of the recording off the sound desk because it all went out for Radio 1. And they were batshit crazy, man. They were full on. No, this wasn't an act. They were just out there. And it was one of the greatest things. Again, talking about those gigs. Now, that night with yourselves and Megadeth, that's one that's burned in my mind. The Slipknot gig burned in my mind. I also I'm actually on their video that they released, the live video when they headlined Donington in 2009. I'm right down I do, for those people that have watched the channel, I do music videos and film and TV. I've done one for these guys, which is how we met properly, although we bumped into each other a ton of times over the years.
You were friends with Mark, weren't you, John?
Good friends with Mark, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, me and Mark went back in the early days of the Banshee. We were, like, knocking around best mates, I'm just touching on Slipknot. The sound engineer for Slipknot, it was a guy called Dave Shirt Nichols, who sadly died a few years ago. And he was such a great bloke. And we toured with China Beach with Saxon in the UK in 1995. And he was really good to us, really good fun. Wasn't he, Mark? He was just great.
Yeah.
And then one day, in fact, I was talking with Nigel Glocker from Saxon about this the other day, because he put on a post on Facebook saying, do you remember, tribute to Shirt? And we were sleeping in a box van on the Saxon tour. And we got to a gig one night and we was just waiting, sleeping over. And we couldn't get out of the van next day. And Dave Nichols, who ended up being Slipknot's sound engineer, gaffer taped us into our van so we couldn't get out. I mean, I'm not being funny. It's a lot of gaffer tape.
That's a lot of tape. That's impressive.
Yeah, when we did get out, we got out the back, with the box van, and he put the, what do you call it, the lift you up thing, and he put it up, and he got a plastic, like a paper plate, and done a massive shit on it.
Oh, mate. I can see why he was Slipknot sound engineer. It sounds like he would have just been fit right in there. You know what I mean? That's badass. That's a great story. Jesus. But wow, that's unbelievable. No, huge Slipknot fan, and to me, they are the last band out there doing that kind of sort of heavy extreme music that really holds some serious gravitas. Obviously, you've still got Metallica going. Megadeth are still going. They're not quite on that same level without being, I adore them and everything, but they don't have quite that worldwide sort of appeal that the likes of, say, you've got.
Though, in Europe, they were huge in Europe, huge. We're very lucky. I mean, Metallica are on a different level. They base themselves in Paris. They live in Paris, and then in the festival season, they just travel out doing Uber venues. But Megadeth were cool. They were very good to us. They didn't have to be. Made sure we were fed. They made sure we got our fee to keep us on the road. And I mean, I've met. I think the thing is Slipknot. I think the new album's great, and I think the new drummer has made them a better band. The new guy. The new album's super. It's great.
I love it. And what I'm saying is, like, I haven't really seen, and this is not me just getting old and jaded and everything, but it's like I haven't really seen anybody since Slipknot come out that I think is going to potentially carry the flame on. So I don't really know where music's going to be in, say, 20, 30 years when they finally pack it in. I mean, I reckon they've got probably another good 2 decades in them realistically, but I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a huge. I think there's a huge need for a retro. And when you think about it, I mean, our friend Paul, I don't know if you know Paul Collins, who's a Manx lad. He does front of house for Anthrax, and they've had a real resurgence. A lot of these older bands now. I mean, even the new Paradise Lost album, Obsidian's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. musically, you know, production. We've just done the new My Dying Bride album where I've drummed and Mark's produced it, and it's gone down great. You know, I didn't know that much about the band previously, but they have this great following, and you know, the genres are still there; they don't go away. Yeah, and the secret is now is to do something new. I mean, Paradise Lost have done that very well over the years. They've taken a few knocks in terms of people not accepting the changes, but you know, they've come. I was very lucky to have 5 years with them, and they were sort of come back to the heavy side of it. The new album is absolutely killer.
Yeah. Mark, I'm not going to leave you out of this, but this is kind of, as well as the bands you've all toured with, right? Obviously, I've got to say that Jeff, Paradise Lost for me, mate, massive, massive band. I got into them from watching Noisy Mothers, which was our 2 hours of metal that we all had once a week, Raw Power before that. And it was the True Belief and Ember's Fire from the Icon album, which was massive. Yeah. I loved it. That's when I got into Paradise Lost. And I've seen them play. I saw them at Download. Donington Monsters of Rock that became Download. But the old Donington Monsters in '96 when Kiss were headlining. I think that might have been the last year it was ever Monsters of Rock. I can't quite remember. I'm fairly sure that was the last year that it was under the Monsters of Rock heading. But they were just awesome. And so not just the fact that you've toured with these bands, you've actually been part of some of the bands that have been absolutely enormous for myself. Much like when I interviewed Neil McLennan, Mackie from Blitz. Blitz became I've told the story on another tape, but I mean, they became a large part of my life, but they influenced the likes of Rancid and the Cro-Mags and a load of the bands that I was deeply, deeply into at the time. And it was quite cool to find out that the band that had influenced them, you know, literally weren't just like, when I say local, they were from New Mills, they were from my hometown. It was mad. So, I mean, I can't tell you how much pleasure I get from hearing these stories about, you know, touring with Slipknot or playing with Paradise Lost. You also played for Ace Bailey, didn't you, Jeff? Former Wolfsbane and also Iron Maiden for one album. And
2 albums. 2 albums he was with him.
2 albums, my bad. Yeah. So just there's an awful lot of metal. I don't know, kudos between the two of you, man. I mean, it's good. There's some good.
Appeal to this. You know, Mark's really the driving force in this. I mean, we do work really well together. And when we were doing Deviate, which still sounds immense today, in my opinion, we were working so closely on tempo here, making sure the songs were perfect. And it shows. And what you have to remember is we were playing to click track in 1996. You know, all these bands like Linkin Park came out playing to back it, you know, to backing tracks and programming. We were doing that off a massive 4-track live and playing to click with headphones before a lot of bands were doing that, especially in metal. You know, Mark's got a great vision, and he's got this do or die attitude, which is infectious. And you just like, we're on lockdown, and I'm saying to Mark, right, what are you doing with lockdown? Well, I've got a business. We're just going to keep the business running. You know, and just, you know, spend some time with the kids, try and homeschool them. What are you doing, Mark? Are you going to take some downtime? No. What I've got is I'm going to finish a new Kill to this album, and then I'm going to do this project and that project. And it just, honestly, he's like a dynamo.
Well, mate, Mark, over to you on this one. So Jeff's kind of dropped the ball. There is going to be a new Kill to this album because you released 2 really cool tracks. One of which I did the music video for yourself, so which was Sleeper Cell. I think Jeff's gone to get another beer while we're over to you, bro. And I love the track. And the other one was Karma Coma.
Coma Karma.
Sorry?
Coma Karma.
Sorry, wrong way around. Love the track. And some really cool melodies and things going on that. But these aren't just one-off tracks. We're getting another album. I saw you play live recently at the Manchester Academy 3, and you were, again, absolute dynamite. And so what's happening? What's happening with Kill to this, Mark? Is we're going to get another album? Go on.
Just finishing off the
and
last vocal parts for the album. The drums are recorded. We just probably about a week, 2 weeks away from finishing all the vocal parts, and then we record the guitars, record the vocals. To be honest, John, everything the whole plan that we had has been kind of slightly kiboshed by the pandemic, or it, would have probably been finished. We've had to sort of like record stuff and finish the writing by distance. But yeah, it's pretty much there. It's sounding really good. We're really looking forward to getting it finished.
Oh, mate, I'm looking forward to hearing it in all sincerity. Are the 2 singles that you've released so far going to be part of that album, or are they stand-up?
Yeah.
They're on the album.
They're part of the album. Yeah, first 2 tracks from the album.
Belting. And then what's the plan? Is it tour? Is it festivals? Is it a bit of everything? Both of you on this one?
Yeah, all of the above, really. We'll see what what happens. We need to work out its release and get some live dates. What we really need, if I'm honest, John, is to get a really good, strong support behind us.
Sorry, Matt, you glitched. Sorry, bro. A strong what behind you? Support, is that?
A good support slot. We could really do with, supporting a decent band, like a good, UK tour with Fear Factory or something like that would be just perfect for us.
What's interesting is, Kill to This, we've been back since about 2014, I think. We played in Belgium. And then we did Bloodstock. We've had 5 or 6 funny years in that we put the band back together. And I said to Mark, we got back together about 2004 and we did an album, and we called it City of God, which was like a Kill to This album. It wasn't. And that's brutal, that album. And then I went off and did Paradise Lost, and then we got back together. 2014, we put it back together, and we wanted it to be legitimate, and we've done Belgium, we did Bloodstock in 2016, we played in Germany last summer, and we've done odd gigs here and there. And the band still feels legitimate and current in many ways. But what's interesting is that people see us, and we go down great, and then they go, "We've never heard of you guys."
Right, quick one. When I came to see you very kindly put me on the guest list for your last gig. It's obviously because, I've made you the greatest video of all time ever. So,
it's not that, John. We just wanted to fill the crowd a bit because,
Well,
I think, to be honest, at the moment, John, if there's any band, I can guarantee any promoter that we would do a tour and there would be social distancing. We've been ready for this for years.
Mate, that's
you could get you could get a hippopotamus from the sound desk to the stage without touching anyone.
Oh, mate, that's bad. You had a respectable crowd there in the end. And I was just saying, I brought a friend of mine, John, who's a rally driver. Hello, who's this? This is awesome. We've just been joined. We'll come back to that.
This is Jax. He doesn't say a lot.
Nice. Strong
Yeah.
silent type.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say, my mate John, the rally driver, and he's into his rock and his metal, and he hadn't heard of you. And he came and he was genuinely blown away by you. And he was like, he actually said to me, "How long have these lot been going?" I said, "A long time." I told him about seeing you supporting Megadeth, and he really enjoyed you. So you've got one new fan. It's building. It's coming slow. You know what I mean? But no, you could get. I'd be cool to see you out there with Fear Factory or anybody. You got to play Bloodstock, the main stage, a year or two ago.
2016.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, since having small children, I have not done a single festival. I will definitely be putting that right in the next year. So especially if you guys get on one, I'll come and hit you up for a backstage pass so I can do my Wayne's World thing or something. That'd be cool. But
Cool.
you also got to play with them. Just briefly keep going on about other bands that you've been playing with, and we're not talking about yourselves. We're coming back on there. But were you on the same day as Conformity last year? Because I love that band.
They've got a drummer now. I think
Sorry?
I think they've got a drummer from Manchester now. Corrosion. I'm sure they have. My friend Rob's their sound engineer, and I think their drum tech is now in the band. I'm sure. I may be wrong, but I think he's a Manc.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I'm taking all the work.
I might be wrong on that. Not often wrong, but I'm always wrong.
Well, listen, coming back to it, just going to go back over to Jeff on this one again, because we mentioned already that you drummed with Paradise Lost, you've drummed with Blaze Bailey, you guys both collectively were China Beach, which I had no idea about till about a month ago. But another band that you're playing with currently, or you just done the album My Dying Bride, another big band.
Yeah. We Mark again. You see, Mark will fill you in on the early days of that.
Yeah, no, I'd been producing a band called Godthrim, and the drummer in Godthrim was the drummer in My Dying Bride. And the only reason he was playing in Godthrim is that My Dying Bride weren't busy, because the singer in My Dying Bride is well known. His daughter, Renee, 5 years old when she got it, had cancer. And so the band weren't doing anything. But then the band started back up, and Sean decided he wanted to carry on playing in Godthrim. He didn't want to join My Dying Bride, and he was given a choice between the two. So he left My Dying Bride, and obviously Jeff was the first person I called to give the gig. And obviously with having the link with Paradise Lost and the kudos with being in a band of that size, then it was a perfect fit for My Dying Bride.
Superb.
Really
Sorry.
well.
Yeah, sorry, Mark, I didn't mean to cut you off there. See, My Dying Bride, I've been aware of them for a lot of years. They're not a band that I ever got into, but there were other bands. Again, going back to Noisy Mothers, I was watching, I think they called it a Doom special, and it had My Dying Bride and Anathema and Cathedral all on there. Now, here's my Metal Hammer moment, right? So I've had letters published in Kerrang, Metal Hammer, and Classic Rock. I've had the letter of the month, letter of the week, all that, because I've done a bit of writing and what have you, and I can hit a call with people sometimes. But I personally have had a write-up in Metal Hammer, not for anything musical, just for being absolutely off my face to the nth degree at a Cathedral gig back in, it would have probably been late 90s at Manchester Academy 3, where I saw you guys play. But the connection is that Anathema, there was My Dying Bride, Anathema, Cathedral. I saw them all on that special, so I was aware of them all. But it was Anathema supporting Cathedral at this gig. My Dying Bride weren't there. But at the time, that was a little too much for me. And Anathema, like really slow, dirgy, doomy, grindy stuff. And I'm sure they're really good. Or maybe it's not my bag personally. I don't know. I'll try listening to them sober one day. But this particular gig, I was in my late teens, and it was the first time that I ever decided to try.
I'm just letting the dog out. 1 sec.
Do so. I'll continue with 3, and I'm hoping to watch Cathedral. Anathema have come on first, and this is the night that my friends had taught me into eating weed for the first time. Now, I'd smoked it loads, but I'd never eaten it. It's very different. And effectively, by the time Anathema came on, I was tripping balls. All I had that day was a couple of cans of Special Brew, quarter of jelly beans. You remember getting sweets in a quarter.
It's a breakfast, that, isn't it, John?
It is. It's the Diet of Champions. And then about a quarter of resin, which I'd eaten. And I was off, man. I was off my fucking box. So I actually got a write-up in Metal Hammer where it said, it's Freshers Week at Manchester University. At the back of the hall, some not-so-fresh freshers are steaming drunk. Or, high as hell as well. All my mates had sort of double drunk. It says, one individual in particular, myself, has to leave ashen-faced and barely able to focus. And it says, the hallways are awash with vomit. Also me. So there you go. I've been in those metal pages as well, lads. You know what I mean? You're not an exclusive club there. But, so I think I've covered most of the stuff that I had down. So I'm just going to finish with a couple of individual questions for both of you. Then I'll start with Mark. So and you can go on with as many of these as you want. But I always say I've had a few wow moments in my own career, whether that be my fight career, film and TV stuff. I've had those moments where you get to work with somebody or perform with somebody or just meet somebody that you've been massively influenced by, and it's been a great experience. Now, you've already kind of mentioned about the Megadeth experience, the Slipknot experience. Is there anything else, apart from those two stories, like a real wow moment for you, where you met someone that's been sort of quite influential in your life and it didn't disappoint?
Saxon.
Yeah, our first tour.
Saxon, was that your first tour?
Yeah.
You don't get more metal than that, mate.
Incredible.
Yeah, that's cool. And I take it that was a real sort of just any stories from that, or was it just the whole thing was just awesomeness and that's that?
Just the professionalness of a proper band and a proper tour with, you know, catering and trucking and their equipment and their sound check and professional sound engineers and monitor engineers. It really was a professional outfit and, incredible band. I was a Saxon fan since I was about 13 years old, and it was such an honour to tour with them.
Oh, that's amazing. Just before I come back to you on the same question, Jeff, I'm just going to say, because you were saying about that experience of getting up there in the big leagues and working with a really professional band, the professional sound engineering crew, several times, I draw many analogies between martial arts and music. There are so many. But they're both effectively solo pursuits that you perform with other people. You know what I mean? That's one. Also in terms of the way, especially your type of music, the martial art for me is a way of exercising all the negative energy in myself and taking that crap. And it's like alchemy. I take the worst aspects of life in terms of physical violence, and from that, derive an art form out of that, a sport, a life, in my case, a lifestyle. And so much positive stuff stems from like literally the worst stuff. And I've always been into my hard rock, my metal, my punk, everything, extreme music, which is obviously what you guys are, fine purveyors of. And to me, that's always been the same vibe, taking all the worst aspects of life and then, letting people know that you're not on your own, making that connection and just like, it's just like putting a hand on someone's back and going, it'll be all right, man. But from, as far a distance as music can reach, which these days is literally worldwide. And B, it's pretty cathartic. You're getting it out, you're channeling it in there. If I have a horrific day, one of the things that stops me from going full-blown postal, one of the reasons you haven't seen me on the 6 o'clock news yet is because I train like crazy and I get it all out. And I'm usually listening to, some severe metal while we're doing it. Sometimes you guys. So there's that aspect of it where there's similarities. But the thing that you twigged me with when you're talking about, and it's come across in a couple of your stories, is like the bizarre sort of aspects of touring and traveling, because I end up going all over the country and I've fought, worldwide as well. I've fought in Europe a few times and things like that and traveled. And, you get a vast, there can be a vast contrast with the level of professionalism and the level of legitimacy even sometimes with the shows that you end up playing at. It's like one week, I'm in an arena and there's pyrotechnic and there's dancing girls and I've got like the referee is the referee from the UFC and the doctor is the guy from the UFC and all the main, and it's serious top-notch professionalism. And the next week I find myself boxing on an industrial estate in the middle of nowhere, right? There is no first aid at all. There are like 300 people rammed into a room, which is clearly breaking fire regulations. And, there's nothing. Dancing girls, music, no. The bar is like a pasting table, a couple of ropey little pikeys have sort of erected, and they're selling cans of Red Stripe for like £3 a pop. And it's like, how can I work with this? Where's my pyro? Where's my dancing girls? I can't work like this. I'm a professional. So you get those mega contrasts and you get some very, very funny stories coming up from that kind of a thing. So before I come on to Jeff and ask about the wow moments, do either of you have any sort of crazy stories or just about odd gigs?
On the when we were on the In Requiem tour with Paradise Lost, we did Europe where we were headlining for 2 months, so it was sold out and everything. It was amazing. And then we went to America straight away, pretty much. And we toured with Nightwish, who were huge out there. So, and they're big fans of the band. They wanted us on the tour. We flew to New York, and then we went up to Connecticut, and then we played the first night. We were doing a headliner. It was a weird deal. I don't even know how it worked. We were getting paid loads of money for these headline gigs. We had 2 months out there, or whatever it was, and there was about 6 headline gigs. and we were getting paid a shitload of money. The first gig, remember we come off Europe playing 1,000, 2,000 a night, and we played at the Webster Theatre in wherever it was, and upstairs was Seven Dust, and it was like sold out. And we were playing in a bar downstairs to 14 people, no dressing room, and that was the way it was. We then went to play in Jack's, a place called Jax's, which was south of Philadelphia, and it was the first night of night, which there was 800 there. It was their warm-up night, and then we did 1,000, 2,000, 1,500, 4,000 in Montreal, and then we go to do a headliner, 26. It is madness, you know, and that's like a real leveler. But we never, I suppose it's the same with us, Mark. You know, we've done amazing gigs, but to us, you know, I think we love what we do. We have always had an ethos, and we're still lucky to do what we do. You know, that's what I think.
Well, and Mark, do you have anything that you want to add to that in terms of an odd gig or an odd experience? Oh, hold on.
Oh, he's back.
He's back. You okay, mate?
I'm all good. My battery's pretty low, but I think it'll hold out for a little bit longer. I haven't got my charger with me. But yeah, I think same as Jeff it's just taking the rough with the smooth. You play, you know, some great, really big shows, and then you'll play a show elsewhere and you'll play to nobody. You just got to go on and give a good show, because you don't know who those 14 people are.
I always love the Spinal Tap movie, you know, where they end up getting billed further and further down, and
you know something, John?
Back in Japan. And,
I've been in Cleveland and not been able to find the stage. Nice. Seriously. Honestly, it was like we had to go up 2 flights of stairs, across another bar, into another club, and we got lost.
I too have had that experience as a fighter when I fought at the Velodrome in Manchester, and it was like a mile trek to the stage. I kid you not, I was knackered by the time I got to the cage to fight. It was bizarre. So yeah, I also have those car fight stage stories.
The interesting thing is, I'm sure Mark will agree here, is for all the stuff that we've done together and the brotherhood of what we've done, which honestly we could spend another 3 hours talking about it, but Mark and I will always say, I've always known how lucky we are, and it's defined our lives in many ways. But if I sat here now, and do you want to talk about a crazy story? I'll talk about being in Madrid on a Thursday afternoon, waiting for sound check in the sunshine, and just looking at each other and going, how lucky are we today? And that's what it comes down to. It's not about drink or drugs or girls or anything. It's not. We set out to do something. We damn well did it.
Oh, yeah. Man. I'm of the same mind. You know, it's like I'll be there. I'm like, you know, I'm chatting with my friend and said, well, what did you do this week, John? I'm like, well, I spent Wednesday morning getting pistol whipped to death by James Bond. You know, Timothy Dalton at the time, that James Bond. On Friday, I was working with Wayne Rooney on a commercial, and you know, and the following week I ended up getting stabbed repeatedly in the throat by Mogwa from Blast of the Mohicans. And it's just, again, it's having grown up sort of loving both music and film and things. And when I was younger, and I'm sure this was for yourselves, because the world feels a lot closer these days, a lot more accessible. But to me, you know, that sort of stuff, that world just felt like eons away. It didn't even feel real, or let alone attainable. And then to find yourself right in the thick of it at the highest level, surrounded by people, whether it's musicians or actors or fighters that you've grown up modeling yourself on, or, you know, vastly appreciating their work. And it's just like, yeah, it's like those fuck me moments. You know, absolutely. It's like, this is actually my life. It's like, I'm here. I get that totally, Jeff. I get that totally. You still there, Mark?
But the thing is, going back to what we said at the very start, John, is when I was growing up in Manchester, and I joined Marquesa, that I was talking about before.
Yeah.
And then we go in the Banshee when I was 15. We could rehearse on a Wednesday. I should have been at school. But there was a thing about Manchester, and then I met all the guys who would go to gigs. As I say, the other night, it was 37 years since I saw Maiden or whatever it was. but there was this whole community and this clamour for Kerrang and the Metal Hammer and going out of the weekend to buy an album because it was so. When I talk to my 3 boys about it, the older one says, "Shut your boring knobhead." The middle one just ignores me, but the little one who's full of wonder. I took him to see Alter Bridge. I took middle one to see Maiden, loved it, and I took them both to see Alter Bridge in December, and he's full of the wonder. And it's like I cannot explain to you, and they will never experience what it was like to be into the music we love, the way we loved it, and the way we dealt with it when we dealt with it.
No, I completely get that. And it's like, whether it's music or whether it's the martial arts, I've definitely sort of lived through some interesting times. And again, a lot of people in this day and age where everything is so accessible, you've got social media, you've got all sorts of stuff. Kids growing up today, they're growing up with the UFC. I mean, there was no UFC when I was a kid. I used to get grief for doing martial arts. It was a properly sort of minority thing. People used to take the piss mercilessly. And the metal, when mid-90s, it was not popular in England at that time, not in Manchester. And any type of sort of self-expression in the small, inbred, backward town that I come from is generally frowned on. And hence the martial arts and the metal sort of went hand in hand. It was a different time, but I was that hungry for it, whether it's the music, whether it was the martial arts stuff. I was that into it, that hungry for it. And it really did have, it had almost an element of like the hyper real about it. It just took you away. And then, like I say, years later, you end up working with these people as colleagues, touring with them, or, performing on screen with them, or, attending seminars and chatting with them. And it's crazy the way it all comes around. And it's
John, what's the one thing? I mean, I'll say this to Mark as well. What's the one thing for you to have the success you've had in what you do, and for us to have the modicum of success of what we've done? What's the one thing it takes?
Just perseverance and self-belief.
Sacrifice.
Oh God, man. Yeah, definitely sacrifice. Well, perseverance was my sort of attempt at sacrifice, really. I would put sacrifice in that. I mean, I lost in martial arts when I lost again and again and again. I won nothing for years. I was a bully victim at school and what have you. That's why I started doing it. And it wasn't something that came naturally to me. But after 34 years and counting of working my backside off, it's like, yeah. And so perseverance, stroke sacrifice. You get knocked down, you get up and you go again. And it is also like I said, the discipline about being able to sort of, I'm not going out, drinking tonight. I've got a train, I've got a fight coming up, I've got a gig coming up, doing the practice. Don't get me wrong, we always want a balance, don't we? But you got to put the work in. There you go.
We're doing this gig in Germany, right? And we've got a long journey. I mean, and back in the day we had a British gas van, which we slept in for 3 months or whatever. Just we wanted to gig. And Mark, I was too young to drive back then. And Mark's driving this van. And we'd made it so it had the front seats and then it had the back, we'd like put beds in and a bit of stuff at the back. And then I wake up we're on this 10-hour drive. I can't remember now, it's so long ago, but I wake up and Mark's driving. And I sort of wake up and I'm like this. And I just sort of thought, I'll just check how Mark's doing driving. And I look and he's got his legs, because obviously Mark's tall, he's 6'25", whatever he is.
Yeah.
And he's got his legs right across the seat of the right. So he's driving right, he's got his legs right across the bench. So he's got no foot on the accelerator. I mean, how is he driving? I look down, he's got a 5-litre water bottle and he's got it on the accelerator.
Oh!
And then I said, "What are you doing, Mark?" He says, "Oh, I'm just it's fine." He says, "It's fine." And he turns round and he's got, when he gets tired, you get that dicky eye.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a bit dry. And he gets that and he turns round to me and he's gaffer taped up one of his eyes. So we're going from a 10-hour drive across Germany with a 5-litre water bottle on the accelerator, and he's gaffer tapes up an eye. These guys are lunatic.
That's one of the scariest things I've ever heard. we've lost Mark by the look of it. I don't know if his iPhone has run out or what. But,
yeah, get an Android, mate.
Yeah. Oh, he's back. He's back. So, Mark, we were just hearing more about your phenomenal driving exploits across Germany with your eyes literally taped open and a 5-litre water bottle on the accelerator. So, yeah. Hope there are no German law enforcement officers watching this, but, you know, it's possible. But good call. Oh, wow. Happy day.
In China Beach, we used to race at Stockport. And I was with Danny, the singer of China Beach. And we used to go to Maxime's at Wigan. And Mark's got his own car, and Danny's driving up. So I'm in the passenger seat. And Mark's car overtakes us. And Mark is in the passenger seat on the M6. And what he's got his legs over from the passenger seat, touching the accelerator and driving the car. So we're going past him, and he just turns around in the passenger seat like that. No one's driving the car.
This is bad dream stuff. Jeff. I think we've lost him again. I don't know where he's gone, man. So,
Android.
He's back. Right, listen, he's back again. You are you're flicking in and out, Mark. So what we'll do, we've got a cracking interview there, lads. I've really enjoyed it. Don't sign off straight away, because I'll just have a quick debrief with you both beforehand. But seriously, lads, absolute pleasure. Is that the new one, Jeff?
My Dying Bride, Ghost of Orion on Nuclear Blast. Go out and buy it. Not you, but you know.
No, I will. Go out and buy it. And the new Kill to This one, when's that out, Mark?
Hopefully early next year.
Do we have a name for the album yet?
We have a couple of potential options.
Pull your finger out, Mark.
Yeah. One possible title is, there's a couple of possible ones, but yeah.
Keeping that one close to your chest for now. No worries, man. No worries. Mate, been a pleasure talking to you both very much. Like I say, I'll stop the recording in a second, but we'll just have a quick chat afterwards. But I'm just finding me buttons, technical mastery and all that. So, lads, I thank you enormously for your time. So, Mark Miner and Jeff Singer from Kill to This, thank you, and hopefully we will speak again soon. So, cheers, lads.
Thank you for your time, John. Lovely chatting.
Thank you, mate. Thoroughly enjoyed it.